This is exercise number 6 for Political Science 560. This exercise has been broken into two separate parts. The first part of the exercise will focus on geocoding the addresses that have our community gardens. The second portion of the exercise will be how we'll import those geocoded addresses into map window. So let's go ahead and get started with the geocoding portion of the exercise. Basically, what geocoding does is it takes a list of addresses, for example, mailing addresses, things that you might have in a document or a spreadsheet or in a database, and it converts those into points that we can then map on in Map Window or some other GIS software. Sometimes commercially available GIS software will have geocoding functionality built into it. But you can do geocoding across the internet for free, and that's what we're going to be doing with Map Window because Map Window does not have a geocoder built into it. When you've launched Map Window, you've probably seen something out there called geocoding. However, that plugin doesn't work. It's kind of too bad. It'd be nice if it did, but it relied on the Google geocoder, and Google's made some changes, and the Map Window software hasn't been updated yet. But that's all right because we're going to be using a free geocoding service from Texas A&M University. We're going to send them a list of our addresses for our community garden. They're going to send us back a document which has got all that same information about the community gardens, plus the latitude and longitude for each one of those addresses. We're going to then go through a process of converting those into a shapefile and then displaying those on a map. So let's go ahead and get started with those steps. First thing we're going to do, however, is we're going to grab the community garden document that's in Google Drive, and we're going to bring it down onto our local machine. So I'm going to start by creating a folder to hold that community garden document. So I'm going to go to my File Explorer. I'm going to go to the directory where I've been saving all my other data sets. I'm going to resize this for a second. And now I'm going to take and create a new folder called Community Garden. Of course, it would be helpful if I spelled it right, although it doesn't matter. Boy, there we go. Finally, I've got it spelled right. Next, I'm going to go to Google Drive. I'm going to go to the data sets for a class. And I'm going to grab this document right here, the one called Community Garden CSV. That's our text file. It has all the addresses for the community gardens in that. We're going to right click, we're going to do copy, then we're going to go back to where we created that new folder just a minute ago, and we're going to paste it right in there. Okay, so far so good. I've got my own local copy of the community garden document, and now I'll go ahead and I'll minimize that. Now we'll go ahead and we'll go to the Texas A&M University website that they have for the geocoding services. Let's go ahead and resize that as well. As you can see, here's the URL for that. And the function we're going to want is geocoding. We're going to continue scrolling down here. We're going to do a batch geocoding. We're going to do step 1. Oh, we'll stop and talk about these steps. So we basically have 4 steps for this process. First of all, we're going to upload our document, which has got the addresses in it. We're going to choose that data set for the geocoding. We're going to tell the geocoder at Texas A&M which fields are the field of which contains city, which field contains zip code, things of that nature, all the pieces that make up that list. And then we're going to do a few options, and then we'll run the geocoder. So step 1, we're going to upload the community garden document. Now, in my case, I already have an account at Texas A&M. You, however, will need to sign up and create your own account. All right, once you've created your account, you'll be coming back into the geocoding service. I just have to log on, however, so. And I'll log in. Again, you're going to need to sign up for a service, and then you'll be able to log in and use it as well. Again, it's free. There's no cost associated with this. I'm then going to click Add a new database, upload a new database. It's going to ask me to browse to the spot on my local computer which has got the file in question. And it took me to my data sets, community gardens. I'm going to double click on that. Scroll down a little bit. We'll go ahead and accept all these defaults and upload. Okay, it's told me my database has been uploaded successfully. Now it's going to have us go through a couple steps to validate the data just to make sure that it can read it properly. First, we'll validate the database. It's validated successfully, and then we're going to validate the table. In our case, since we're sending up an ASCII text file, this really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if we are sending up an Access database which might have multiple tables in it, it makes a little more sense if you think about it that way. So it's been able to open the database in a table and everything's cool. So we'll go ahead and it showed us the content of our document, and you'll notice that just as it looked like in Excel, if you took the time to look at it before we got to this point. There's a garden name, an address, city, state, and zip, and they've assigned an ID number to it, a unique ID number for their processing. So we'll scroll down, and then we'll pick geocoding. Next, step 3. This will basically prepare the geocoder so it knows which fields contain what. Now, when I set up this document, I knew kind of what I was going to be doing. And I've already set the fields up so that they'll match up with the geocoder, so you don't have to worry about any of that. We'll accept all those defaults. Next step. And we'll scroll down again, and we'll pick Start Process. If you want to view the process so you can see where we are in the geocoding activity, I recommend you do that because that way you'll know when it's done, for one thing. We'll view the process status. Now, I have a number of these out here because I've geocoded this list several times to make sure I could get it right. There were some typo errors and things of that nature. If you had been doing this yourself, sadly, you would have had to do the same thing because you always get a bad address or you get a street name that's spelled wrong or something of that nature. So I have a bunch of these. You probably are going to have just the one that you're running right now. I always click this auto refresh because what that does is it tells me where we are in the process. And as of right now, it has geocoded 7 of my 52 records, my 52 gardens. Now we're up to 9. I'm not going to sit here and watch this counter run. We're just going to go ahead and pause this, and then we'll come back and when it gets closer to being done. Okay, it's geocoded about 50 of these addresses, and it should finish up here in just a moment. Great, now it's gone ahead and finished all 52 of those. Now to download your results and to be able to pull the new document down, which has got the latitude and longitude, we're going to come over here and we're going to click on the job which is right under this start column, which is your particular job, or in my case it's the most recent one. I'll click on it. Tells me some information about the job that I don't really care about, but the most important thing I'm interested in is this button for download. We're going to pick Save As. Now, in my case, by default, it went back to my data sets or class and even into the Community Gardens folder for me, because here's the original document. And let's go ahead and we'll give this a new name. We'll call this Community Garden Geocode. So that way we'll keep it straight from the original document. And we'll click Save. And let's go ahead and open that folder. So here's a new document that came down from the geocoder from Texas A&M University. If you want to, you can go ahead and close Texas A&M. I'll just go ahead and leave it open because well, no, I'll go ahead and close it. I'm not going back there again for a while. And don't forget there's this little window back here too. Okay, well, let's go ahead and open this up. When I double click this, it'll open up in Excel for me. And this is one busy Excel spreadsheet. Let's go ahead and start by getting the column so you can read everything. I basically want to do this so that we can take a look and see how the geocoding works. Let's go ahead and we'll shorten up that column. So here's the original data: garden name, address, city, state, and zip. They've assigned a user ID for a number for each one of those. And there's a whole bunch of other transaction information here. And here's one of the things I'm interested in to take a look at geocoding. Geocoding can be done by identifying an address based on a parcel. For example, they may have access to tax maps and things of this nature. And they also have another option for street segment interpolation. Typically, and this is a particularly valuable aspect of the Tiger file. Let's just go ahead and get this so you can see a little bit better. This is a particularly valuable component to the Tiger file because the Tiger file has address ranges for each of the street segments. And if the geocoder can't find it in a database that they have on parcels, what they'll do is they'll go to the Census Bureau's Tiger file and they'll find where that address resides along a street segment, and they will guesstimate where the point should be on that street segment. For our purposes, that's certainly accurate enough. In other situations, maybe certainly the parcel is a more accurate location, but for what we're going to do, if we get it in the right block, that's going to be just fine. And then we'll come over here a little bit further, and you'll see there's our latitude and longitude, which is what the geocoder returned us. Let's go ahead and exit out of this, and we're not going to save the changes. All right, so I've got this document. I need to get it into map window, but I can't really map this. I mean, this is just a text document. So we have to go through a process of map window to read in this text document, read the latitude, longitude, and then be able to map it in the project. So let's go ahead and we'll just minimize this for now. And then let's go ahead and launch. Oh, there's one other important step that we should take a look at. Let's reopen this geocode spreadsheet again. Now, one of the things which we have in this spreadsheet, we have all the data we want, but we've also got, this is some junk here at the bottom of the spreadsheet, which came from the geocoding service. I don't want any of that because if I try to feed that in the map window, it's going to say, well, this isn't an address. What am I supposed to do with this? And it's going to be aggravated and give us an error. So we're just going to go ahead and highlight through a whole bunch of these columns, these rows, excuse me. Just grab a whole big old chunk of them and then right click and then delete those rows. So now we have in our spreadsheet or in our document just the actual raw data that we're going to be using for the mapping. Now we are going to have to save this spreadsheet. Go ahead and click yes. So we saved it now with the extra junk pulled off the bottom, and we'll go ahead and we'll exit this. Okay, great. Now let's go ahead and minimize it. So that concludes the first portion of exercise number 6. We have successfully taken a list of addresses which identify where our community gardens are located. We sent them off to a geocoding service, and we got back from the geocoding service a document which had the latitude and longitude. So let's move on into part 2 of the exercise, and that's going to explain how we take a document with latitude and longitude and turn that into a shapefile so that we can map it in Map Window.